So I am sitting currently at Lone Star North Harris College. It's on the north side of Houston, Texas. It's a college I went to for a few years. Nobody's here today. It's Sunday, and I came up here to make a couple of videos about the World Mission Society Church of God. And I actually forgot my Bible. I just made a video and I kind of just was using the online Bible, but I'm sitting in the same courtyard that I actually first was introduced to this church at. Well, I actually was first introduced to this church at, and I was actually preached to at this table right here. I'll show you. See that table? Boom. I was right there. I was actually right back here when I met a couple of people that looked like a family. It looked like a It kind of looked like a mother and two daughters, but it turns out it was actually a mother, daughter, and another woman, basically. And I was here. I got baptized. There's a little fountain right here. I got baptized right there. I just played basketball, took a shower. I was all sweaty anyway, and they came and poured some water on my head, just a little bit of warm water, and prayed for me and stuff. So honestly, I had prayed to God for the first time in a very long time, like a couple days before this girl came and preached to me, and I found that like way too coincidental to like ignore. So she was actually right there at this little like cross section. There was nobody here. It was like 7 at night, and I was just about to leave. The gym closed. I took a shower and I was about to head out, and the only thing that was happening was a little play. And I was walking. I saw this little, it looked like a family. They were walking up, and I was like, they looked like they were like lost a little bit. I'm like. So I asked them, like, y'all lost? You looking for the theater? And they're like, no. So I was like, there was nothing else going on. So I'm like, what are y'all looking for? I didn't say it, but it was just like an awkward silence for a moment. I was like, okay. And then just, I guess she, summoned the courage to ask me if she could preach to me. So she asked, she was like, can I preach to you? She was like, I don't know what she said, but like, can I preach to you? I was like, ding, ding, ding. Like, I just prayed to God a couple days ago. Of course you could preach to me. So we sat down right here at this table. And she started showing me stuff in the Bible. I had never seen nothing like that before. I was like, holy crap, like y'all got some like, I was like stunned. I was like, what is this? Like I never heard this. This is like well beyond like the average orthodox, teachings that you hear from random people. Like most people just say believe in Jesus and you're saved. You know what I'm saying? But then she started showing me stuff. First thing she showed me was weeds and wheat. It was just a lesson at this church. Okay, World Mission. I say it like everybody knows what it is. Okay, weeds and wheat it's a parable in Matthew, and it's one of the only parables that Jesus actually explains. His disciples ask him to explain it, and so basically says, the devil sowed some weed seeds among the wheat when the farmer was sleeping, and then the servants asked, he wants to go pull up the sprouts, and he said, no, wait until they mature to pull them up. And she explained that to me, and it made sense. Wheat was the farmer, the weed seeds were basically, I don't know, when Jesus explains it, he says it's like the good word of God or God's people or whatnot. So basically the people who are God's people are people who follow God's law, stuff like that, and people who are not of God. Satan, planted some seeds, and they're not of God, they're not following God's law. So God the devil planted some seeds that were weeds. And she kind of associated that with something that happened in 325 AD, Emperor Constantine in Rome, and the Council of Nicaea, and how they, changed the Sabbath day, being Saturday, to Sunday, kind of, which kind of merged pagan teachings with Christianity. And so ever since then, that was when the seeds were planted. They've been growing, and so it's almost at the maturity stage. That's basically what she was saying. I was like, oh my gosh, like, whoa, like, and so I was like, kind of sold on that. And then she went off to show me some other stuff. She went to John 6:53. First she said, first she was like something in Proverbs or something, or maybe Psalms, but said, don't boast about tomorrow, for you don't know what the day may bring, or something like that. And I was like, ooh. Like, I was like, okay, what we saying here? And then she showed me John 6:53, which it says, very truly I tell you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. If you do, you have everlasting life, and I'll raise you up the last day. And she's like, he ain't talking about physical life. You're physically alive, right? He's talking about spiritual life. I'm like, oh, crap, he's talking about spiritual life. It says, unless you eat the flesh of some man, drink the blood, you have no life in you, spiritual life. And if you do, he'll raise you up the last day. So I'm like, oh, crap, we got to get this happening, you know. So she's like, you know, we can make that happen right now. I can call somebody, get baptized, and we can get you eating the Passover. And I was like, and I was just, it was all just came so fast. And like, I just prayed a couple days before, and it was just like, it was a sign. I was like, oh my God, I can't say no to that. So, you know, I was just like, she said, don't boast about tomorrow because you don't know what the day may bring. I was like, there's no way I can say no. So, literally right here, she called up the people, kept preaching to me some random stuff. Wait about an hour, people come, like a whole group of people. I was like, oh crap, like all this for me. And you know, went and sat right there, got some heated up water, and they prayed and they did some prayer. I remember when they prayed, it said some weird name. I was like, what is that? What was that? Like, I had no idea what it was. I didn't say it, but I'm just like, what was that? Like, it tripped me out a little bit. And it turns out that was who they believe is the second coming of Christ, Christ on Sung Hu. And I heard it, and I was like, I thought it was some Hebrew stuff or something. I was like, okay, I don't know what that was. So they invited me to go to church. It was, I don't remember exactly what day I got baptized. It was like June 24th or something like that. But my birthday is June 27th, and so I went to church. It was Saturday. It was my birthday. I think it was my birthday. And we went up there, and they actually made me a cake. I was like, oh, man, y'all. Oh, man, like, y'all are too nice, you know what I'm saying? It was, at the time, it was a little house church. So I'm in Houston. It was, the first Houston Zion, which is on, like, the south side over in, like, Pasadena area. I forget exactly where it's at. It's over there somewhere. Then you have the second Houston Zion, which broke off from the first Houston. So it's World Mission Society. So they go around the world and like make little missions, and they're kind of been like growing, however. And so first Houston was first in Houston, and then it broke off to second Houston, and that was a group of people that came over here. But then I guess that they had a little second break off from the first Houston to make third Houston, and it was a little house church at the time. They actually rented a house up here in a neighborhood that was not far from where I grew up, like the neighborhood I grew up in. And they rented a house just so they could open a little house church up here. And, you know, so when I went there, there's only like, I don't know, probably like 10 people maybe that were up in there. I think I was the first new recruit over at this new church up here. You know, everybody else was like old members basically. And they just brought enough people really to, I think a couple people had already lived in this area, so they would go to that church and stuff, and they still go, I think. But I was the first new recruit, I think, and you know, they invited me to go, and I was interested. I was trying to figure out what was going on with church. I was trying to figure out what that weird thing was that they said, and I remember on the ride home, because I was gonna ride the bus, but I missed the bus, and they're like, "You need a ride?" I'm like, "Sure." So the people who came from the second Houston, who prayed for me and everything, they gave me a ride home, and I don't know, I'm not gonna lie, I felt like it was a little bit awkward because I was only known for like 10 seconds. Like I was sitting there talking to a girl for like 3 hours almost, you know. I mean, but they were like insisting that the brothers brought me. So that's a whole other thing about the church. They're separated into male and female. So yeah, I was like, when on the car ride home, I was like, how do y'all know this stuff? Like, what do y'all, how do you know this stuff? Like, I never heard nothing like this. And they'll be like, you'll be surprised when you learn, believe me. And I was like, So that got me interested. So by the time I went to the church, the little house church, you know, I was interested. So first day, they had I saw the first, what's it called? Service, okay? And they had like these, just so much stuff they were doing, and they had this book called the New Songbook. I was like, what's up with this? And they showed me in the Bible real quick. They went to the book of Revelation, like, look, new song. The 144,000 could sing a new song that nobody else could sing except for the 144,000. I was like, oh, okay. And the book's called the New Songbook, and I was like, that was weird a little bit. And then they had like, oh boy, my boy Javi. Still love Javi. I got mad love for Javi. He was playing the violin up at the front. Everybody started singing. I'm like, damn, we're rocking out. It was cool. It was a little house church, you know what I'm saying? And in the living room of their house, and it was cool. It was cool. And so yeah, they made me a little birthday cake, and later on we had a service. Eventually we ate. I think we ate some. Miss Laura. That's the Deacon John's mom. She like cooked for us, I think. It was fun. It was nice. So I started going there. I went there for like a month straight, just learning hardcore, like everything about the church, and kind of fast track myself through it all. And eventually, they bought me my own like personal Bible, my name stamped on the front and everything. I was like, whoa, like that was super nice. And I still got that Bible. I still read it. So yeah, I was going for about a month straight, learning everything like hardcore. And I guess they thought I was pretty committed. Eventually, I mean, I was just there every single day. It was close knit. There was like 10 people. I was just one out, like, I was kind of the first recruit, kind of welcomed up in, like, I guess they all knew each other already, and I was just kind of this guy that came up in there. It was fun. It was cool. But eventually the church moved out of the little house church, and they eventually got a building where they're now at. And like, I don't know, it was like I played a part in that process, trying to find a new church and stuff. And I went out preaching with these people and stuff, and I was pretty involved. And so I kind of felt like I was part of it, And eventually we went over to this new building. When we got into the new building, the Deacon John, who was the person who was running the house church, he went back to First Houston. Somebody else came from First Houston and started running this one, which they call Third Houston. And I was kind of like, what's up with that? Like, where's Deacon John? Like, I felt like he wasn't Deacon he was just Brother John at the time. I was like, where'd he go? Why's he, like, why'd that happen? Nobody would really give me an answer. I don't know. It kind of felt weird. But we dealt with it. We rolled with it. But anyway, the church is nice. It was peaceful. It was nice. It was fun. The people were fun. Like I said, I got mad love for most of the people there. But after going for a while, I noticed. I was like, dude, this ain't seeming. There was one specific point where I realized it was just blatantly wrong, and that was a lesson that they teach called the Christ Unsung Hong and the Secret of Forgiveness of Sins. And they give you these books. They try to get everybody to be a preacher. So they teach people to preach, first of all. They preach to you, and then eventually you become a preacher, and you practice preach, and you become a preacher, da-da-da-da-da. So you go through these first 2 lessons on a piece of paper, and, if you pass those, then you get this book. And in the book, the first lesson is called the Christ Unsung Hong and the Secret of Forgiveness of Sins. And it's like one of the verses in there. So everybody goes through this. Everybody becomes a preacher. Everybody goes through the lessons and whatnot. Like everybody in the church who's been there for more than like a couple months. You know what I'm saying? And this is the first lesson in the first book. And there's a verse where they basically try to say that Solomon was in heaven with God before he created the earth. Okay, but that verse is Proverbs chapter 8, and that it's in Proverbs chapter 8. I think it's verse 20 or something. But that chapter is called, like, by most, in most Bibles that actually title the chapters, it's called Wisdom's Call. And if you read the beginning of it, it says, at the top of the mountain there she makes her stand. Wisdom cries aloud. So it's wisdom saying that she was there with God before he created the earth or whatnot. And they try to say it was Solomon because Solomon wrote the book of Proverbs. But it's clearly wisdom. It's wisdom's call. And I was like, it's clearly saying it was wisdom. It's her. She stood atop the mountain and made her stand. The chapter's called Wisdom's Call. And like I saw that, and I was like, and I remember I asked about it, and they're like, oh, don't worry about that. Just skip past that. And I'm like, but it's clearly not Solomon saying this. And like they are adamant. Like they say, yeah, see, Solomon was in heaven with God. And I was just like, what are y'all trying to do here? Like, that's not right. And that's when I really like snapped to it. I'm like, these people are trying to like push stuff that's clearly just not right. And if I'm going to be the person who's going to be preaching, I want to make sure I was doing right. I want to make sure I got it right. And I want to be a good preacher. I was already fucking hyped up for that. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a good preacher, and I want to make sure I can do it right. So I studied like deeply. I read the context, all the verses and stuff, and that's what I ran into. I'm like, that's wisdom. That's she stands atop the mountain, makes her call. That's not Solomon. And that was the first verse, and everybody's just like, don't worry about it. I'm like, how am I not worry about that? It's clearly, y'all trying to say something that's clearly not saying. And that's when I kind of just like I just looked around and I'm like, I look at the people like people like have been here for a long time and they just like skip right past it. They hear that teaching every single day almost. You know what I mean? And I was like, how are all these people just acting like it's not clearly saying something different? And that's when I just like kind of woke up. I was like, yeah, y'all are tripping. Y'all are ignorant, like purposefully ignorant. And I was like, yeah, that's not a. That's when I was just like, a question started brewing up in my mind, and at that point, I kind of just started like emotionally withdrawing myself. I was looking around. I'm like, yeah, this ain't. And I started seeing it. And I started seeing more and more how like certain things were just not adding up. Certain things were funky. Like there's clearly ignorance. How could everybody see that and just ignore it? And I was like, that's when I started looking. I'm like, yeah, these people are just brainwashed, bro. Like these people are just like in it. They're just brainwashed, like straight up. Like, and then I started looking at all the techniques they use. They bring you into rooms and they sit you with like another member who's like been in the church for a long time, who already like trained, and like you sit in a room and you watch like in this little room and you're watching the TV with them, like a video, and they're all like reacting to the TV like, and you're like looking at them like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to react. Okay, let me act that way. It's like it's training. It's like brainwashing. It's a cult. Whatever you want to call it. It's very odd. I'm not gonna lie. I'm surprised so many people are still there. Like, dude, like how do y'all not see that yet? Like, I'm surprised I was there for so long. I guess I was just so blinded by all the fun, joyous activity, all the food, and everybody complimenting you and all that fun stuff. It was nice. It was fun. We had fun. We did little extracurricular activities. It was fun. I guess I was just blinded by all that, and I just did not pay attention until I really started paying attention, I was trying to be a preacher. I said, okay, I'm going to be a good preacher. I'm going to study decently so I know exactly what I'm talking about here and can explain it to people. That's when I noticed. I'm like, whoa, y'all trying to get me push some stuff that ain't even legit. There's people that have been there for so long. I'm like, there's no way that you have not seen what I see right there. Like, and I even pointed out, and they're just like, oh, no, don't worry about it. I'm like, how do you not worry about that? Y'all are tripping. So the whole thing, as far as I could tell, is a big fraud. That was just the first I woke up. I was like, whoa. It was weird almost because I seen it, and like the way they didn't react. I'm like, there's no way. Like these people have been here for a long time, and they just all trying to act like it's nothing. And that's when I'm like, dude, these people are just something's wrong here. And that's when I started questioning a lot. I think back. They got the little brainwashing mechanisms in there, and I can talk about those. They do what you call love bombing. Like I said, they made me a birthday cake. I'm not gonna say maybe they're just being nice, but love bombing. They give you all these compliments like, oh brother, you're so nice and you're doing so good, da da da. But then if you don't start like progressing in the gospel, as they say, like they'll start being like, you should be a little bit more excelled in the gospel at this point. You've been here, how long you been here? Like, they start to like, threaten you with kind of, all that love turns to a little bit of criticism. So you want that, you want to please these people. So you're like, okay, let me do my job and be a good gospel worker. That's one example. The brainwashing and the freaking bringing these rooms. I'm telling you, they bring in these rooms and put on these videos, and it's like a guilt trip. One of the big things they say is like, oh, we tried to kill Heavenly Mother in heaven, and like we're all sinners, and that's why we all tried to kill our Heavenly Mother. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that I tried to kill you, Heavenly Mother. I'm like, I'm telling you. And then they have these cheap, I forget what they call them, like these little plays, like 3 of them. It's like the cheapest product. It's like so corny. And I'm like, at first I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'm just supposed to be humble. I think that's what everybody thinks. Like you're supposed to just be humble and like, accept it. Like you're not, but it's like the stupidest, most corny freaking thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, and this is God's production. Like this is the best God could do right here. It just is what it is. I can laugh about it at this point because I know better, because I already stepped out of the church and studied the Bible on my own, and I can see how it's a big joke. And church is a joke. Another thing, they go on about, they try to say that this dude Christ unsung home was the spirit in the flesh. Okay, so the spirit in the Bible is a gift from Jesus, basically. When he just ascended or whatnot, like the spirit came down or whatever, and it was a gift. And Paul talks about it a lot. Paul's like, we're given the gift of the spirit to kind of guide us or whatnot. And the Spirit was with them back then when Paul was there. The Spirit was there then. Okay, the Spirit is not a dude in the flesh. That's retarded. They try to say that, and that's retarded. Those freaking corny videos are so hilarious. It's not even funny. I don't even remember what they call them, but they're just hilarious. And they try to say, "Oh my gosh, we tried." It plays out like the whole story of in heaven, like, "Oh, we betrayed you, Heavenly Mother. We were tricked into trying to kill you," and it's like a big old guilt trip. It's like, it's so funny. It's a joke. It really is a joke, dude. It's hilarious. I mean, I'm not even. It's literally comedical. I remember when I rolled up and I saw the new songbooks too. That was hilarious too. I'm like, new song. They even say it every service. Say, now let's listen to a new song. I was like, what? Like, it's just so funny how they say it. Like okay, the 144 is supposed to like sing a new song that nobody else could sing, but they have a whole book of new songs that like everybody's like practicing to sing and stuff. It's like everybody's like practices to like know these songs by heart, and like they know there's like a ton of, it's just crazy. It's crazy. It's very funny. It's very funny. What else they say? They say, so they try to say this dude Christ on home is the Spirit in the flesh. And then there's somewhere in the Bible it says like, every sin is forgivable except for blaspheming against the Spirit. So basically, if you say anything about Christ on Song Hong, you're committing an unforgivable sin. You're blaspheming against the Spirit. So everybody's like, yeah, I dare not criticize, dare not even think for a second that this guy is not the second coming of Christ, because that's an unforgivable sin. And so they got that right there. That's Super Fear Tactic 3000, you know what I mean? And that had me for a long time. And another thing they tell you, don't read nothing on the internet. They basically, they bring you through very carefully. They're like, yeah, they say something like, if we, feed you too fast, you might regurgitate it or whatnot. So they say, yeah, we have to bring you slowly into the truth, or that's what they call it, truth. And so they like very slowly bring you in lesson by lesson and stuff. It was cool, the whole process. I thought I was learning like deep truth, man, and I was with it. But later on I find out, I'm like, still good times. It's still fun, I felt like I was being revealed God's truth, and I was like, yeah, like we're in the end times where this is it right here. This is, they tell you a whole bunch of stuff, man. I'm looking out the window. I'm like, I'm with the right people right here. Like, I'm glad I'm a chosen one. Da da da. That's how I felt, man. A lot of people believe that, and I could just see stuff that's just clearly tripping. And I'm a pretty honest dude. I'm a truth seeker, I'm a pretty honest dude. I'm not gonna lie to myself for anything really. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff at the church that's just crazy. It honestly is. They tell you don't go on the internet, don't read anything, don't go listen to any other sources, And one person even said, I don't know if this is like with the whole church things, but they said that the internet's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, for real? They say, yeah, you can't go on there because it's like eating from a knowledge of the tree of good and evil. I'm like, are you joking? There's just so much corny stuff. Another thing, like, this woman claims to be God in the flesh, and yet like, if you go up in the church, there's like plaques from like the Queen of England and like Barack Obama. It's like, these are people who don't go to church, who are, as far as she's concerned, as far as the church is concerned, are condemned to hell. They're people who aren't going to be forgiven and brought to heaven because they don't go to church. And yet she's putting plaques on the wall that are from them. Like, she's like putting that up like it's the biggest thing in the world. Okay, you're supposed to be God. Why are you putting up these people? You're putting up plaques that come from people who are going to hell. You're supposed to be God. Don't you even see how that's stupid? Like, come on, please show me how you even justify that in your brain. It's just retarded. It just really is. It's the stupidest thing ever, dude. People who are sinners, who ain't going to church, who are condemned to hell, you're putting up plaques on the wall that you're so proud of, that are signed by them. That's just so blatantly retarded. There's a lot of other stuff, but generally they use fear tactics to get you thinking that you gotta be this servant of God. They always go to this one verse in the Bible. There's a lot in the Bible. I think I could get really real. I kind of just want to stay on topic with this church, but a lot of people say that the Bible itself is used to scare people and control them with fear. And a lot of people say a lot of people a lot of people say that religion does that in general, and I'm not. They just kind of picked out certain verses and used it in a certain way. The Bible in general seems to be very fearful, fear-mongering thing. And I mean, as far as I'm into studying it. If there is a real God, I want to be on God's side. I'm a pretty righteous dude either way. You know what I mean? I don't lie too much, and that's why I'm like exposing this church. I think it's wrong. So I'm a pretty righteous dude either way. I have no problem following a real God. If there's a real God, I have no problem getting on board. You know what I mean? But as far as I can tell, this church is BS. As far as I can also tell, the Bible itself, I'm not even sold on Christianity. You know what I mean? To me, it seems like a big fear-mongering thing. And honestly, it's a lot of how should I say it? There's a lot of things that the Bible says that makes it hard to live normally, like a lot of things. And it's like, I remember that it's been quoted, don't quote me on this, but like, if you try to like take the Bible literal and like live by everything it says, you might go crazy. That was somebody that said that actually. I feel like that's true because I was trying to be like so to the T with all these rules and stuff. And it was just so hard. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna go crazy. Like, it was so hard. Another thing, there's people at church that don't follow all the rules. Yet if they're bringing in money or if they're dedicating time, they'll get they'll excuse the fact that they're not following the rules or whatnot. For instance, a person who, I'm not even bashing on this dude. This dude's a good guy. I know he's a good guy. I know him. He's cool. But the dude who rented out the house to create this third Houston and to begin with to kind of create the mission over on this side of town, he was working on the Sabbath day quite often, and it says like don't do that, and he was doing that though. And but he's bringing in money, he's helping the church, so they just excuse it. There's other stuff. There's plenty of other stuff, but